Hi there, this is Ira Weinstein with Recon Research, and today we are talking about the latest news, AVI Systems becoming the GPA Regional Business Unit for the United States. I am really pleased today to be chatting with two excellent representatives. First, I have Byron Tarry, the Managing Director of the GPA. Good to see you, Byron. And I also have Jeff Stubner, the President and CEO of AVI Systems. Jeff, thanks for being here today.
Hey, Byron. Thank you, Ira.
Pleasure. All right, so let's dig in. First of all, Byron, can you give us maybe a minute overview on the GPA? Just give us a feel for what the GPA is about.
Sure. Well, I guess in essence, we're the largest specialized meeting and collaboration technology in the world, integrator in the world. But I like to kind of think of us a bit more like the Uber or Airbnb of the AV industry, because we're actually made up of 30 best of breed specialized AV UC regional business units from around the world combined, offering a physical presence and a local language and cultural understanding in more than 50 countries, but all united under this single global brand of the GPA, this single common operational delivery model. So as with the model that unites some of the world's leading, most progressive, highest growth companies at the moment in that collaborative shared business economy, our goal is to leverage technology, global scale, and a foundation of community, and ultimately, I guess, a commitment to improve customer and user experience to build a better business model, a business model we think that in the AV UC space that our customers are desperate to achieve.
So the way I look at the GPA, tell me if this is right or wrong, it is 30 or so top-level integrators around the world working together as a united front for their customers. Do I get that right?
Yeah, I guess, but a little more than that. They are shareholders in our organization. It's a bottom-up organization in terms of ownership, and so it's not just an alignment of 30 different companies. It truly is united as one organization trying to deliver that global footprint and presence.
Makes perfect sense. Good. Jeff, can you give us a minute or so introduction to AVI Systems?
Yeah, sure, Ira. AVI Systems, and by the way, we simply refer to ourselves as AVI, is probably best known as the industry's only employee-owned systems integrator. And since becoming employee-owned, our growth has taken off. Today, we're the third largest integrator in the industry. Probably the difference for us is that all of our growth has been internally funded. We don't use any sort of outside funding sources. As you can imagine, we support all aspects of audiovisual systems integration, consulting, field integration, and support. Uniquely, we have two powered by companies, Dascom Systems in Minneapolis, which is a broadcast streaming company, and Magenium Solutions based in Chicago, which is a large Microsoft Gold consultancy.
Perfect. And the employee-owned concept, I think, is phenomenal. When one wins, everybody wins. And I think knowing your company, I think everybody feels together as a family. It's a good model. I like it. Now, Byron, jumping in, I don't want to talk or focus on yesterday's news so much, but can you give us a little bit of insight about how the attempts to stick with AVI SPL initially went? I mean, was the writing on the wall the moment that the news broke about AVI SPL and Whitlock, or did we actually try to figure something out here?
No, absolutely. Look, I wouldn't suggest necessarily this is a negative or a failure. It was 8 weeks of hard work post announcement and ISC, really giving the potential for an alignment, the effort that it deserved in support of the GPA organization as a whole, and perhaps in particular the 800 or so Whitlock staff who are transitioning across to AVI SPL, who all have a passion for what this organization represents. So the reality is and was that despite a lot of effort and some of the best brains in the industry, I guess, putting their heads together to try and find a path forward, that the priorities just weren't aligned enough to make sense to go forward. But if anything, I don't think that's a failure. In fact, perhaps it's a success for this industry, because in this global space, we need leaders. We need progressive companies driving it. So two is better than one, perhaps, in that sense for the industry and to drive that overall maturity forward.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. And to be clear, a lot of smart people worked really hard to make it work, but sometimes it just isn't destined to be. There's just too much overlap. And I can understand that. I kind of predicted that might be the case. Now, Jeff, before joining the GPA, can you tell us about your company's international presence? What was the strategy? How did you support clients outside the US?
Yeah, we've not marketed our business globally. However, we have worked globally for some time. In the past, 3 or so years, we've worked in 34 countries. That probably would surprise a lot of people. But it's always required a lot of heavy lifting for us to get that work done. GPA will really reduce the friction for our customers. We identified our own partners and worked with those partners. But unlike the GPA that's really aggregating demand to a partner, we couldn't aggregate as much demand. So I wouldn't say we would have the relationships that I think we'll find with the GPA.
Makes sense. I mean, the GPA models, everything is, pre-organized, predefined. Everybody knows who everybody else is. And that's different from, it sounds like the model you had before was the, respond as needed and find the partners as you needed. And I can understand that. Now, in terms of this partnership here, who reached out first? Did AVI reach out to the GPA, or did the GPA reach out to AVI?
Ira, AVI did. We've had and have tremendous respect for what Whitlock and its leadership team built. The GPA, honestly, is the envy of the industry. AVI and our industry has to reduce the friction with working globally. And we view the GPA as having the best platform for making that happen, the best track record. So reaching out to the GPA was really in service to our customers.
Yeah, and you saw the opportunity. I appreciate that. Now, Byron, question for you. Now that you've gone through, I would imagine, weeks of due diligence, getting to know the AVI folks, what surprised you the most? What did you learn that surprised you?
Well, I think I guess I'll approach that on a couple of fronts. If you look at the practical due diligence and the process we would go through, while AVI certainly reached out clearly as number 3 on the SEN list and so on, they were an obvious due diligence opportunity to go and look at other parties in the market and see where we perhaps were best focused ahead. But I think as we engage, certainly the maturity and the progressive nature of their organization. Jeff talked about Magenium, for example, their Microsoft practice, or that digital signage broadcast practice and so on, through to things like Insight, their managed services monitoring and support portfolio and solution and so on. These are really mature offerings that I think, when united with certainly some of the strategies we've been pursuing on a global basis, but that unification of 30 business units around the world and the innovation that comes from them, we're really excited about where some of that combined knowledge can go. I guess on a more high-level standpoint, I think that the transparency and trust that from the first meeting that Jeff and I had really struck me. And really those are the foundations, what we think is the secret sauce, or our special advantage in what makes this global delivery model work. And so from initial discussions, it really was a relationship that we felt had a great fit. The employee ownership structure and so on is very much aligned to that community structure that the GPA is built upon. And so, I think between the two of them, it just made it a very obvious path forward as we looked at all of our options.
Makes sense. Full disclosure, when we heard about the AVI SPL Whitlock merger, we spent a couple of minutes thinking about who might be the right partner for the U.S., and AVI was at the top of an incredibly short list. So we're with you on that. Now, Jeff, same question. You've now spent some time learning about the GPA. What surprised you the most?
I was surprised to learn how sophisticated or mature the business process and the structure is. There's ticketing systems, CRM systems, a central support center. The depth and the breadth of the infrastructure would be the envy of any company, honestly, in our industry.
So it was really the established infrastructure and the way they can process business. I appreciate that. Well, good. So, gentlemen, I think we're all set. This has been great. Thank you very much for your time, and I wish you the most of success with your new partnership here. This is Ira Weinstein with Recon Research. Have a great day.